Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for an incredibly important issue, the drug crisis across Canada. Today is about unity, responsibility, and hope, but it's also about the pain and frustration our community has felt for far too long. Addiction is not a distant issue. It's here, in our streets, in our homes, and in the lives of the people that we love. Every single person standing with us today represents a piece of that reality. We are here with someone who has recovered, living proof that recovery is real, that it is possible. We are here with someone who walks into the encampments with compassion, who sees the humanity in people, for their longing for safety, and their quiet hope for a different life. We are here with a business owner who's been shaken by the change in our downtown, who's watched a once vibrant downtown now struggle under the weight of this crisis. We are here with a parent whose child is in active addiction, fighting for their child's life and begging for a system that responds. And we are here with our neighbors who want compassion, but also want safety, security, and a community that they can trust. These stories are not separate. They're one story, the story of a community that is hurting, remaining hopeful, and refusing to give up. Our region is spending over $80,000 every single month just to manage the Victoria Street encampment. This is not including ambulance, fire, or police services. And the other sanctioned encampment, 40 Sheds, has a yearly budget of $5.76 million. That's $144,000 per year per shed. This current government has spent billions over the last decade, but the crisis has only worsened because of bad policies that do not get people into recovery. Massive spending commitments should not be the goal. We need to focus on outcomes of our drug policies. Right now, families are still losing loved ones, businesses are still struggling, neighborhoods are still unsafe, and people who want the help are still being told to wait. But there is hope, real hope, because in the past few years, some provincial governments, including Ontario, have begun shifting their focus towards recovery. It's a call echoed by the big city mayors of Ontario, who are asking for action to strengthen and rehabilitation and recovery across Ontario. This is a good start. It shows what's possible when governments choose change over complacency. Now, we need the same commitment from our federal government and across every province, territory, and city in Canada. Because the truth is simple. People can recover. People do recover when the right supports exist at the right moment. And when recovery takes hold, families heal, businesses come back, neighborhoods feel safe, and communities can breathe again. This is why every level of government, regional, municipal, federal, and provincial, must come together. We cannot keep passing the hot potato. We cannot keep shifting responsibility. We cannot keep building systems that leave people waiting until it's too late. We need mental health supports. We need more recovery beds, and we need instant access to treatment. That's exactly what my motion in committee calls for. Measurable outcomes, accountability, prevention, early intervention, treatment, recovery, housing stability, and collaboration across every level of government. And the bills put forward by my Conservative colleagues like Luke Berthold and my bill allowing court-ordered rehabilitation and treatment would turn recovery into reality. We are joined today by the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Pierre Poilievre, and our Shadows Minister for Addictions, Todd Doherty, who, along with the Conservative Party, understand the importance of getting this right. Because this is a human issue. It demands leadership across every corner of government. Today, we stand together in grief, in courage, in compassion, and in determination to say the time for coordinated action is now. And we will not stop until meaningful change is delivered, because something needs to change. I am incredibly honored to introduce the leader of His Majesty's Royal Opposition, Pierre Poilievre. I just want to say one thing. I knew that under his leadership, I would be supported with my own story. Because in the last election, Pierre said that addicts are superheroes that nobody knows about because they climb a mountain that nobody can see. And there is so much truth in that statement. And he's a piece of the reason why I actually felt for the first time in my life that I would be comfortable to run. And man, was I right. He's been incredibly supportive across the entire process of sharing the story and coming here today. So please welcome the Honorable Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you very much to the incredible Kelly DeRidder, not just for including me here today in this beautiful park, what a pristine place, but also for the incredible story that she brought to the floor of the House of Commons. This is a woman who has been to the bottom of the valley, but has climbed to the top, mountaintop. And she has done it through courage and perseverance. And the fact that she has survived through this journey has given her superpowers that most of us could not even dream of having. We are here today in the very same place where Kelly used to sleep. Where was the bench?
On the way other side.
On the other side. So she went from a park bench, sleeping on a park bench, to sitting in a seat in Canada's House of Commons. What an incredible story of hope. And now she wants to see a million more stories like that. That's what we need. We need to replicate this story right across the country. So my message to anyone out there who might be addicted and suffering, have hope, hang on, hope and help are on the way. We're going to get you there. And I want to thank, we've got Todd Doherty, our shadow minister responsible for this file, who's traveled all the way out here, a great champion who's fought particularly to save the lives of suffering first responders who are scarred by much of the courageous work they have to do. We have Connie Cody from Cambridge, one of our great members of Parliament, and we're here today to fight to restore the promise of Canada, that hard work gets you a great life on a safe street, in a house you can afford, with a mortgage you can pay down, meat and potatoes on the dinner table every single night, and a beautiful Canadian flag hanging off your front porch, representing that we as a nation always put Canada first. Je suis content d'être ici avec Kelly DeRidder, députée conservatrice pour Kitchener Centre, une femme extraordinaire qui a survécu la dépendance de drogue, mais qui est devenue une femme d'affaires, qui a travaillé dans le domaine de technologie. Elle a géré des ingénieurs et maintenant elle représente les gens ici. Dans les derniers jours, j'ai parlé aux dizaines de citoyens à travers le Canada, les gens qui veulent un Canada qui est abordable chez nous, qui est sécuritaire chez nous et maître chez nous. J'ai entendu des inquiétudes des mères monoparentales qui ne peuvent plus payer leurs factures, des jeunes qui ne peuvent plus acheter des maisons, des petites entreprises qui risquent à perdre tout à cause des politiques inflationnistes des libéraux de Mark Carney. Encore, on a eu des inquiétudes par rapport aux tarifs. C'est pour ça que je demande à M. Carney de respecter sa promesse électorale, d'obtenir une meilleure entente de ce qu'on avait auparavant. Une entente sans tarifs qui va permettre à nos secteurs de l'aluminium, de l'acier, de l'auto et de bois d'œuvre d'être compétitifs aux États-Unis. Comme je le dis depuis longtemps, on est là pour travailler avec le gouvernement afin d'obtenir un bon deal pour le Canada. Les conservateurs mettent le Canada d'abord et on se bat pour les emplois. Les conservateurs se battent pour des plus gros chèques de paie pour tout le monde. Mais en même temps, on reconnaît que M. Carney a créé une économie terrible, là où les banques alimentaires débordent avec la demande. Il a doublé la dette nationale. Les libéraux ont doublé le coût de logement. Le déficit est maintenant 2 fois plus grand avec M. Carney que ça l'a été avec M. Trudeau. Le Canada est le seul pays qui est entré en récession depuis l'arrivée au pouvoir de M. Carney, le pire inflation alimentaire du G7, le pire niveau d'endettement des familles au G7 et le deuxième pire taux de chômage au G7. Parmi 38 pays de l'OCDE, l'économie de M. Carney est le deuxième pire. Les conservateurs travaillent pour renverser ces politiques-là et nous reconnaissons qu'on ne devrait pas accepter un mauvais entente qui mette des tariffs sur un côté lorsqu'on ne le fait pas de l'autre. On ne peut pas accepter une situation où nos entreprises de l'acier, de l'aluminium, de l'auto et de bois d'œuvre payent des tarifs au Canada en même temps qu'ils font concurrence avec des entreprises américaines qui paient zéro. Ça, c'est une politique de déindustrialisation. Donc, nous demandons à M. Carney de ne pas soumettre notre économie à une mauvaise entente. Gardez votre promesse électorale, M. Carney. Défendez nos travailleurs. Les conservateurs ont un vrai plan pour libérer les énergies de notre économie, enlever les lois anti-développement, éliminer la taxe carbone industrielle, suspendre toutes les taxes sur l'essence pour le reste de l'année et jusqu'au 1er juillet pour réduire le coût de la vie et permettre nos entreprises de faire concurrence, inciter l'approbation rapide de construction de logements et couper les taxes et les impôts sur le travail, l'énergie, la construction de logements et l'investissement. C'est comme ça que nous allons être abordables chez nous, sécuritaires chez nous, et maître chez nous. Today, we're here met in this beautiful park to reflect on the promise of this incredible country of ours. A country where people were raised to believe if they worked hard, they would have a house they could afford, a mortgage they could pay off, meat and potatoes on the dinner table, as I said, or whatever your favorite dietary preference. You could have good food, a good home, in a good neighborhood, and you would be safe. But increasingly, that promise is broken. As Liberals have doubled the national debt, Mr. Carney has since doubled the deficit inherited by Justin Trudeau. We have the worst food price inflation in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7, the worst housing costs in the G7, and the second highest unemployment in the G7. We now see that the bankruptcy, the Office of Superintendent of Bankruptcy's filing shows that levels of insolvencies are at their highest level since the Great Global Recession 17 years ago. Canadians are once again facing higher costs and greater uncertainty as the cost of Carney piles on their grocery bills, their mortgage bills, and all other bills. Now, Conservatives are also following carefully and fighting hard with regards to the forthcoming hopeful deal with the United States. Mr. Carney promised in the last election that he would be elbows up. He promised that he would negotiate a win, in his words. He promised, and I quote, that he could handle Trump. He promised he would not accept a bad deal. Mr. Carney, keep your promise. Fight for Canada. Don't take a bad deal. We expect a good deal, like you promised. And in fact, Mr. Carney said that he would get an even better deal than we had before. Well, before we had no tariffs. So we expect that he would at least match that. We are concerned about rumors that Mr. Carney might be willing to cave and accept one-sided tariffs that would ultimately put our businesses at a competitive disadvantage. If our aluminum, steel, lumber, and automobile companies are paying tariffs and competing with Americans' businesses that are tariff-free, then we might see a large sucking sound of Canadian jobs moving south of the border. We cannot accept the deindustrialization of our economy. That would put us at an incredible position of weakness while threatening the jobs of Canadians. We don't have to accept that. We need to fight for the good deal Mr. Carney promised. Conservatives put forward a real plan to leverage our natural resources through a strategic oil and minerals reserve that would be accessible to all of our tariff-free allies, to use our massive military purchases as leverage to access tariff-free trade with our allies, to put all of our leverage on the table and fight for Canada. That is what we expect the Prime Minister to do, and that is what we are fighting for. We are hoping that he will get the good deal that he promised. We also want the communities in which we live to be affordable once again. So we are fighting for an end to all gas taxes until Canada Day, which would save you $1,000. It would make it more affordable for small businesses to ship their goods and allow our big businesses to compete with their American counterparts. We are pushing for an end to the industrial carbon tax, the anti-development laws. Let's cut back on bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, handouts to fake and phony asylum claimants. Let's stop giving our money away to other countries when we have desperate needs here at home, and let's use the savings to bring down debt, inflation, and taxes. But we all need safety for that to happen, and that brings me back to the core message here today. Our friend Kelly has been fighting to restore safety in our streets and hope to the hopeless. We know that increasingly in this community, drugs are a growing problem. Just recently, there was a community drug alert issued for Waterloo Region after 37 suspected overdoses and 1 death were recorded between July 30th and August 3rd. These are not just statistics. Behind every overdose is a child, a parent, a friend, a neighbor. While families suffer, liberals soft on crime, easy policies on drugs have unleashed crime and chaos on our communities. Bill C-5, which repealed mandatory jail times for drug-related minimums, for drug-related offenses. Bill C-75, catch and release bail. They all remain on the books after a year and a half of Mark Carney. The Liberal Bill C-16, Mr. Carney's own bill, brings in a get-out-of-jail-free card, allowing judges to ignore mandatory jail time and turn criminals loose on our streets. But we are fighting back. Conservatives want tough new laws to lock up serious drug offenders. Anyone caught with over 40 milligrams of fentanyl should get a life sentence. That's enough fentanyl to kill 20 people. These are mass murderers, and they should be treated as such. We also believe that the police need resources to deal with possession of illegal substances, and that is why Kelly has put forward Bill C-240, which will allow courts to order rehabilitation measures, including education, job training, and addiction treatment during custody, and would include rehabilitation in the process. So simply put, if someone has lost the faculties to make their own decisions and they are in possession of illegal substances, they should be arrested and put in treatment and recovery services so that their lives can be saved. It is not compassionate to leave them face first on the pavement where they will die of a drug overdose. That is not compassion. And our jails should be drug-free. There should be drug testing in prisons, mandatory drug treatment in prisons, and there should be isolation for anyone caught in bringing drugs into our prisons. Our prisons, by the way, are turning into Lord of the Flies. The prison union in Drumheller has told me, the union of prison guards have told me that there are drones that are literally flying right up to the windows of prisoners and handing them drugs. You're telling me we can't find a way to stop that? And there are no consequences when they get caught. So they do it again and again and again, endangering the lives of prison guards and making sure that these criminals get out even worse than when they went in. We don't want to send them to a university of crime. We want to send them to a place where they turn their lives around and come out better citizens. And that is what Kelly is requiring in her bill. Treatment in our prisons. The same principle is reflected in the Friends of David Act, introduced by Luc Berthold, a member of Parliament for the Conservatives in Quebec, who lost his own son tragically to a drug overdose. He wants to avail drug treatment facilities to young people like his son, who would have been alive today, potentially, had he had that availability to him. By helping youth across the country find recovery, we will turn this crisis around. And by passing Conservative MP Chakow's bill, Stopping Supply to Save Lives Act, known as Emily's Legacy, we will target drug dealers, traffickers, and organized criminals. Under the legislation, individuals convicted of trafficking and processing synthetic drugs such as fentanyl and analogs over 20 milligrams will face 15 years imprisonment. Individuals convicted of over 40 milligrams of possession will face a life sentence. Chakow joins with Dan Mazier, another one of our MPs, to ensure that safe injection sites cannot be placed within 500 meters of an elementary or secondary school, a daycare center, or a playground. I can't believe we even have to pass a law to say this. Why would would the Liberal government even consider allowing drug consumption sites next to playgrounds, secondary schools, and elementary schools? This is outrageous. In fact, I will make a commitment that I will not be approving any drug consumption sites as Prime Minister of Canada. We will not allow these to go ahead. We don't want drug consumption, we want drug treatment. So our mission again is fewer drugs on our streets, fewer victims in our communities, and more people getting a chance to turn their lives around. We want to replace helplessness with hope, danger with safety, and we want to restore the promise of this country, that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that no matter how low you fall, there's always hope of getting back up on your feet and doing as Kelly did, which is to climb to the mountaintop to aspire others. And my message to anyone who's addicted is this: we need you. We need you. I went into a treatment center in Windsor, and I said to the men there, I'm not here to offer my help. I need you to help me. I've got a project for you. You need to get better. And then you need to go out on the street and grab a brother or sister and bring them in here and get them better. And then they're going to go out onto the street and grab another one. And we're going to keep doing that until we defeat this crisis and every one of our brothers and sisters sees their lives turned around in a hopeful and bright future for Canada. Thank you very much. Any questions, anybody?
Thank you. We'll now open the floor to questions.
Right here. I have a question.
Oh, from reporters?
No, me. I'm just finished.
Yes. Yes, good to see you, Louise.
You know that we have this expensive if it's done right. How can we how to allow this proposal to provide
Yes, thank you very much, Louise. We, in our election platform, we have a costed plan to fund 50,000 treatment beds right across the country. And I have to look at the exact per patient cost level. I think it is in the neighborhood of about $15,000 or $20,000 per patient. You're right, it is not cheap. That said, the first thing I want to say is we have a different funding model completely. The funding model I want to use is that we will only pay organizations that succeed in getting people off drugs. So what we don't want to do is see the same interest groups that have caused this problem and who have profited off of its worsening to simply change the name on the door from safe supply to treatment and then get the money. So we will only fund organizations that have a track record of getting people off drugs, and then future funding will be based on follow-ups with patients to see if they are drug-free, and then we will pay the treatment center for every month they keep a former addict drug-free. They can then take that money and use it on the next incoming addict. This will create organic growth of those organizations like, for example, Harvest House in Ottawa, or which one? Russo? Sorry, Bruce? Bruce Oak in Winnipeg, absolutely, I visited that one. It will allow them to grow organically through their success, and frankly, it will defund the organizations that have made this problem worse. We will also get money to pay for this by cutting off all of the falsely named programs that they call harm reduction and safe supply. It's all garbage. And frankly, these interest groups, they have profited off of this nightmare. They have no interest in solving the problem because then their budgets get cut. They want to make it bigger, and I'm going to cut them off entirely and put the money into the organizations that prove they get people off drugs. Thank you. And Louise, also, I'll get my team. Can my team reach out to Louise and get her the extract from the platform with the exact costing of our 50,000 spaces, so you'll have that for your story. Thanks, Louise.
Good morning, John Dalzong from CBC Kitchener. If you could please answer our questions in both English and French. First one is it acceptable for Canada to accept a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum as part of a deal with the U.S.?
No, absolutely not. I'm very concerned about the deindustrialization of our country if our key industries pay one-sided tariffs. So I was at an aluminum company yesterday, and they say their competitors on the American side of the border are not paying any kind of tariff. Well, they are. So tell me how the Canadian company is supposed to compete against an American company when only our guy pays the tariff. I don't know how it's going to work. Mr. Carney's got to tell us how he's going to avoid the full deindustrialization of our economy if he accepts one-sided tariffs as part of this deal. We want the good deal that Mark Carney promised. Remember, he said that his entire election campaign was about elbows up, don't accept a bad deal. Well, one-sided tariffs on Canadian industry would be a bad deal. We want a good deal, and that means full free trade and open competition within North America.
In French, please.
Merci beaucoup. Non, ce n'est pas acceptable d'avoir une entente qui applique des tarifs à nos secteurs, uniquement à nos secteurs. Je ne sais pas comment nos entreprises vont pouvoir faire concurrence contre les entreprises qui ne paient pas les mêmes tarifs. Je m'inquiète que ça va causer la désindustrialisation de notre pays, que les entreprises vont quitter le pays en masse pour éviter de payer le tarif au sud de la frontière, et ça va nous coûter les emplois et l'autonomie de notre économie. M. Carney a promis un bon entente, sans tarif, il doit livrer.
Right. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has suggested that Jamil Jivani has played an important role in the trade negotiations. Were you aware of Jivani's efforts, and do you think they were influential?
I told all my members of Parliament to use every single contact they had to fight for Canada and Canadian jobs. And I reiterate that to any of our MPs or any Canadian. If you have contacts south of the border, use those to put pressure to fight for tariff-free trade so that we can protect our industries and have renewed access to the biggest and most lucrative market anywhere on earth.
Thank you very much. That's all the time we have for questions.
Excellent. Thanks very much, everyone. Good to see you. All right.
You want to introduce me? Or I'll just go.
You're going to, yes, we now invite Todd Doherty. He's been our champion, the shadow minister responsible for this file, and one of the leading defenders of people who are suffering with mental health issues from northern BC. Todd Doherty.
Good morning, everyone. I'm used to when we say good morning in Prince George, we say Hadi, and then everybody says Hadi back to us. But I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you to Pierre, and thank you to Kelly for bringing us together today. Thank you to everyone who's here, because you understand that Canada's addiction crisis cannot be allowed to continue on autopilot. I am Todd Doherty. I am the Member of Parliament for Cariboo Prince George, and I am the Shadow Minister for Addictions. I've been on this file and the mental health file since when I was first elected in 2015. You know, I don't think that there's a person in this audience that the addictions crisis, the mental health crisis in our country, that it hasn't touched. I want to thank some of you that shared their stories with me. It is, it's heartbreaking. You know, my brother, I've been very public about how mental health has shaped my life and how addictions has wreaked havoc in our families' lives. My brother lives on the streets in British Columbia, has since the 90s, gripped in with this crisis. I've lost a brother-in-law to overdose. I lost my uncle to overdose. It knows no social boundaries. If you think you are safe from the addictions crisis or mental health crisis, you're dead wrong. You know, I ask you to take a look around your community, whether it's here in Kitchener or across our country. Do our communities look the same as they did 10 years ago? You're right, they don't. They look like war zones. Our communities are gripped in crime and addiction. It is absolutely shocking when you go down in downtown community, in our communities. You know, in Prince George, fires and arson and broken glass. You have shopkeepers that want to close their doors because they can no longer afford the insurance premiums. They refuse to pay those prices. So where a once vibrant community, it's now boarded up shops or graffitied shops or burn marks that you see. You know, it's it destroys our community. For over 10 years under Justin Trudeau and now under this current Carney government, the federal response to addictions crisis has been defined by more announcements, more programs, and more spending. But Canadians have watched the crisis get worse and worse and worse. The numbers tell the true story. Since 2016, over 50,000 Canadians have lost their lives to the addictions crisis. That's more Canadians lost to opioid or fentanyl than we did in World War II. It's unbelievable. And those are the numbers we know. Oftentimes it goes unreported because of the stigma attached to drug addiction. Overdose is the leading cause of death for youth aged 10 to 18 in my province of British Columbia. I'll say that again. Overdose is the leading cause of death for youth aged 10 to 18 in British Columbia. That is staggering. And yet the government will stand up here and their representatives will stand up here and they'll trumpet saying they're doing everything they can. They're throwing billions of dollars at it. It's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Brianna McDonald, who at the age of 13, 2 years ago, in August 25th, she was found dead in a homeless encampment she died by suicide, died by overdose. Her parents did everything possible. They pleaded with the medical community to please help her. She's 13. Please help us get her off the streets and get her into recovery. And they were told that if she wants to kill herself, that's her choice. Instead of teaching our kids why drugs are bad, we're teaching them how to do drugs better. Teaching them how to cook drugs. I'm sure you heard the stories about drug paraphernalia being available in vending units in our province at one point. Those are true stories. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Tyler Dunlap at 17, whose parents found him dead from an overdose. Just the night before, was in the hospital suffering from the effects of drug overdose, had a stomach pump, was able to get the drugs that he needed or wanted afterwards, and then died that day. Now, his parents knew who sold him the drugs. She gave that information to the police in North Van, and that perpetrator is still on the streets to this day. That is a true story of what we're living with. that you are living with, that our community is living with. We see tent cities popping up on every corner, needles in parks and playgrounds, injection sites beside schools, and the government-funded so-called safe supply being diverted and trafficked on the street. Are those really the solutions that we need to fight this crisis? Are we seeing a crisis that has been exacerbated and in many cases encouraged by a government that has not taken this crisis seriously? We fought in Parliament to get them to even declare it a crisis. Too often the Liberal government has tried seemingly to measure success by how many announcements they make rather than measurable outcomes. Whether people are actually getting into treatment, whether they're working towards recovery, whether they're finding stable housing and rebuilding their lives. Our focus needs to change. You have an incredible example of some that are up here that are going to speak shortly to your member of parliament herself, homeless in this park. That recovery is possible. That success after addiction is possible. We can't continue to be satisfied with spending announcements when nothing is getting measurably better. In short, we need accountability. We need to say enough is enough. That's why today, as my colleagues have spoken to, Conservatives are calling on the Liberal government to evaluate whether the current approaches are actually achieving their intended outcomes. We're calling for the federal addictions and mental health investments to prioritize treatment, recovery, mental health supports, stable housing, prevention, early intervention, and community reintegration, again with measurable outcomes and accountability. It's not compassion to perpetuate addiction. It's compassion when you can get people that want help into recovery so that they can lead successful and prosperous lives. That is the change that Canadians are asking for. For too long, the Liberal approach has put enormous emphasis on safe supply, a failed decriminalization scheme, and dangerous injection sites. These policies are not safe, and they have failed catastrophically. As a quick glance in downtown Vancouver or across our country will show you. All the while, Conservatives have been asking a simple question: where is the pathway to recovery? Is someone struggling with addiction? Our goal should never be to make their addiction more sustainable, to be content with keeping them alive, but forever trapped in their addiction. Our goal must always be to give them the means to escape addiction, to refuse to abandon Canadians to addiction. That distinction is a fundamental one. Conservatives believe recovery should be the destination, should always be the destination. We believe treatment should be available when someone needs it, and we believe government programs should be judged by whether they actually help people get there. It's a common sense vision: treatment and recovery alongside accountability and consequences for those who choose to profit from addiction and traffic deadly drugs like fentanyl. And while we recognize that there's no one-size-fits-all solution, Canadians deserve better than a Liberal government that's simply managing the consequences of a crisis that has gone on for far too long. As Kelly's own incredible story demonstrates, recovery is always possible. It's time we champion that in Canada once again. Thank you.
Now we're going to bring up our speakers one at a time from community. And first, I'd like to introduce Spencer St. Amand. Spencer is an incredible story, again, of recovery and rehabilitation. The number one thing I learned from Spencer is you cannot let your past define your future. He's incredibly strong, has rebuilt his life, and is now contributing to the recovery community any way possible to help others do the exact same. So please welcome Spencer.
Well, good morning. So my name is Spencer St. Amand, and for more than 20 years of my life, I was shaped by addiction, homelessness, and incarceration. I spent years believing that it was simply the life I was going to live. I was in and out of the correctional system. I served 2 federal sentences, the first being at 21 and the second one being at 33. Today I'm 36 years old and I've been clean and sober for 3.5 years. But I'm not standing here today because my past has disappeared. I'm standing here because I learned my past does not have to define my future. Today I work full time. I have a stability and a purpose in life. And now I'm working on to take my experiences that once held me back and to help others move forward. I'm developing programs and a nonprofit based on lived experiences to support people who are struggling with addiction, incarceration, and homelessness. This will be called Building Blocks from Barriers. Because sometimes a person you can reach is someone who can look you in the eye and say, I can genuinely say, I've been there, I understand, and there is a way forward. Recovery is possible, change is possible, but people need opportunities. They need support. They need someone to be willing to believe in them long enough for them to start believing in themselves. I also believe that lived experiences needs to be in a place on the table when we talk about solutions. We need to listen to people who have lived through these challenges and give them opportunities to become part of the solution. I'm living proof that a person can change the direction of their life.
Yeah, you are.
And if sharing my story helps even one person realize that their life is worth fighting for, or encourages one person in the community to get involved and help create opportunities for others, then everything I went through has a purpose. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Sean Bradshaw. Sean has a non-for-profit where he's one of the few that walk into the encampment with compassion and humility and sees people for who they are. He meets people where they're at and he plants seeds of recovery. And then when someone's ready, he has relationships with any open bed within a 2-hour drive of Kitchener, and he will personally drive them himself to any bed that may be available in the moment that they've decided that it's time for them to turn their lives around. He's doing incredible work. Please welcome Sean Bradshaw.
Good morning. First, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, especially those who've had the courage to share their stories. I understand your frustration and I feel your heartache. I've seen souls surrender to addiction and I feel your heartache. I personally know what it's like to lose someone to this crisis. My brother Rob, my brother Carmen, my nephew Jamie, and my niece Mandy, all gone far too soon to addiction and overdoses. The drug epidemic continues to grow, and as we have heard today, its impact now reaches every part of our communities. Across our cities, places that were once vibrant gathering spaces are now home to heartbreaking, rat-infested encampments riddled with people sleeping in shacks, tents, and under tarps. But we cannot allow ourselves to simply see an encampment. We must see the people. Mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, human beings who are losing the battle to addiction. This battle can be won, but people need help, actual help. Our current system of safe supply and enablement offers far too few pathways into detox, rehabilitation, and little to no encouragement for long-term recovery. That is why I am proud to represent Frontline Recovery. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to bringing hope to those who need it most. We visit people in encampments and tent cities with one simple goal. When someone tells us they are ready for help, we want to connect them with treatment, support, and navigation services. But there's a serious problem. The request for help greatly outweighs the spaces available. Day after day, we talk to people who want help, people who are sick of the pain and the struggle, people who want their families back, their jobs back, their dignity back, and their lives back. They are asking for detox, they are begging for rehabilitation, and they are crying out for one more chance. Every conversation we have, every tear we share, and every prayer we pray reminds me that there is hope. The potential for recovery is there. I see it in the people we meet every day. It is time to offer the tools required to recover from drugs instead of the tools needed to use drugs. We must build a system that does more than manage addiction. We must build one that creates a genuine pathway out of it. And to do this, something has to change. Thank you.
The next person I'd like to introduce is Mr. Jeff Budd. Everybody knows the Budd family in our area. They had the department store downtown for 90 years. No one knows the downtown better than Jeff, but Jeff also has his own story to tell. And I'd like to introduce him now. Please welcome Jeff Budd.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Budd, formerly of Budd Stores. My family owned the Anchor department store in downtown Kitchener for 90 years, and nobody knows downtown better than us. What I see in the downtown here between the homelessness and addiction crisis is extremely unfortunate. What you don't know about me is that as a young child in grade 5, at 9 years old, my teacher molested me. And at age 30, the abuse led to a 20-year battle with addiction, which I won about 4 years ago. So I'm an expert on addiction and recovery. One of the biggest problems, in my opinion, in the downtown is safe supply. The last 4 to 5 years of my addiction was with DeRidder, which is a painkiller. What's happening is doctors are prescribing this to opioid addicts in the name of safe supply. In my experience, the people being prescribed this aren't taking them. Instead, they're selling them to addicts like me. I'll give you an example. I have a friend down here whose doctor prescribes him 200 pills per week and 800 per month. That's 28 pills per day. That's enough to overdose on. Well, he sells these pills and turns around and buys himself all the fentanyl he wants for personal use. So from my perspective, safe supply is only perpetrates addiction. It doesn't help it. Prescribing drugs to drug addicts is like giving an alcoholic a bottle of booze, or it's like prescribing a cancer patient more cancer. The people doing this need to get their heads examined, and it needs to end. They need recovery, not drugs. Kelly's private members bill will give a real chance at recovery, and I totally support it.
That's incredible.
Next, I'd like to introduce our last speaker of today, Marcia Van Weinzenberg. Marcia is currently, herself, has a son in active addiction. And she's advocating every single day for a path to recovery for her son when he's ready. And the number one thing that I honor Marcia so much is showing parents that you don't need to ask why. It isn't you. It's choices made that have nothing to do with you. And she's helping parents not only navigate the system, but also navigate the emotion when their own children are in active recovery, or active addiction, I apologize. Marcia.
I am standing here today as a parent who has walked alongside a child through substance use and mental health challenges. I'm sharing this story from my lens because I know what it feels like to be a family desperately holding on to hope and searching for the next right step. When you are walking alongside someone living inside addiction and mental health challenges, the goal cannot simply be to help someone survive another day with more safe supplies of the same drugs that got them there. We also have to help them build a life that they can return to. That means access to treatment and access to treatment without long wait lines. This also includes rehabilitation, mental health support, transitional housing, and community. We need to create a pathway that supports recovery long after someone leaves the program. Recovery rarely happens in isolation and is next to impossible when drugs are easily accessible. If someone makes it to a treatment center and then returns to the same environment, the same instability, and the same lack of support, we haven't completed the bridge. Families need that bridge too. I know what it's like to love someone deeply while realizing that love alone cannot create recovery for them. Families need resources, guidance, and systems that help support the people we love while they build the capacity to choose a different future. Today, I stand on this story, vulnerably sharing it as a mother who has witnessed it firsthand, knowing that my child has to decide it is time to change the story, while also sadly knowing that when he does decide to get help, that help is most likely not even available. I have actively spoken to and interviewed many people who have changed their story, including Kelly, and their circumstances, and I know that recovery is possible, people can rebuild their lives, and families can heal. And I believe our public funding should help create more pathways that make that possible instead of keeping the person in the same cycle of addiction. The system is not working, and we are not going in the right direction. There is enough evidence for all of us to see that in any city across Canada. It is time to shift the funding and instead invest in transitional housing, rehabilitation, mental health care, and long-term recovery supports so that when someone is ready to take that next step, there is somewhere for them to go. Because keeping someone alive matters, and helping them build a life they want to stay alive for matters too. Thank you.
It's okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It was an honor to be here and share stories of people afflicted by this drug crisis. And we will work towards recovery in Canada. The Conservative Party of Canada is going to work for all Canadians and ensure that we have a path to recovery because people can and do recover. Thank you.
Way to go.